Players are most cheerful when they stay connected with their fellow players. When they are traveling together, playing tournaments together, spending time in academies, camps, staying together, and following a routine together. Unfortunately, there has come an abrupt block in this routine due to the pandemic issues. Hence, Delhi Capital Badminton Association has taken this initiative to bring us all together. Here on this platform today, we are happy to see a lot of players, past and present, coming together for which we to thank our President DCBA, Dr. Ameeta Sinh, who has taken this very kind initiative, I must say, to get the shuttle back into play. Before we begin, I would like to thank all participants for coming together on this webinar and request all participants that whenever they have any questions, they can put up their questions through chat. Now, getting ahead with our program, first of all, I would like to introduce to all the participants our honorable guest for the evening, Sri P. Gopichand, the recipient of the Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna, the Dronacharya Award, the Padma Bhushan, the Padma Shri, and many, many awards. Probably one of the most celebrated badminton players I think the world has seen. Gopichand is a former All England champion and the current chief coach of India. A person who has been himself a champion but has produced many champions and many people who have attained world #1 ranking. So he has played for India and he has given players to India. Gopi, we welcome you to this webinar.
Thank you very much, Anup.
Also on the dais with us is our gracious host for the evening, Dr. Ameeta Sinh, the current president of DCBA, who represented India for a number of years in the 80s, including the World Championships, in the All England Championships, the Uber Cup, the Commonwealth Games, the Asian Games, and many other international tournaments. She played for India for a decade in the 80s. She is also a former national champion. She is active in public life, as we all know. She's also been the president of the Zilla Panchayat, a former minister in the UP cabinet, and has now agreed to come back and contribute to the very game she played and loved. So starting with our honorable guest for the evening, if I may have the permission of all on the dais. Gopi, as many of your players, students and followers who are currently watching us on this show, I'm sure they are looking forward to receiving certain solutions from you. Especially now they call, now the COVID era is often called BC and AC, which is before COVID time and the after COVID time. I have many, many questions for you, but I cannot begin but by starting with this COVID era. Gopi, this huge pause created by the COVID pandemic derailed most of the sporting activities across the world. At this time, many coaches, many players are clueless about how to go about the current situation. Especially for players, they have sometimes got into a stressful situation about their training issues, about when they will get back to the academies, about keep going on during this very difficult time, especially their mindset. So at this time, we need a solution from you on how players should handle this situation and how they will be able to come out of it, etc.
First of all, thank you Anup sir and Amita ji for having me on this webinar and for the warm introduction and the kind words. Having said that, I don't know if I have a solution, and I know that these are difficult times. And in the last few days, whenever I look at television or hear news, the only thing I'm thinking is that nobody has a clue of what's happening in the future. So I think that's something which we need to be aware of. I can only share some of my own journey and could draw parallels in an uncertain era. Because for me, the way I look at is today we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and all we can do is to be and to put our best efforts for today. I remember when I start playing the sport, and both Amita ji and Anup would know that badminton in Hyderabad in the 80s was not really the big sport. So when I was playing at the LB Stadium, when I went to join for cricket, I did get an admission for cricket and tennis. That's when went and joined badminton. It's not that I had a choice or this was my preferred sport at that point of time. And also, people asked me, especially after the All England people, and one of the most prominent newspapers came up with an um, article which said that how I dreamt of being an All England champion the day I picked up my racket. I think one thing which was very clear at that point and a big lesson in my life was you never trust the press because that was the furthest from the truth. The reality was that I just played, and I don't remember the dream, but if I had a dream, I would think that it would have probably been to be a state champion because beyond that, I don't think my dream would even permit me. So I didn't know the way when I went to the nationals the first time. I was not even in the top 16 in the under 12s. I was not picked up as being a talented kid. So this was the National Sports Talent Search. This was 85 NSTC. And they said I wasn't talented. And when I was sub junior, I lost to one of our Orissa team mates who was part of the federation now, Rohit. And I lost to him, won nationals, and back then we used to have one nationals, right? Only one tournament, not many tournaments. So I lost that. Then one time when I went to Calcutta, I missed my match because I didn't know how to get to from Salt Lake Stadium um, to the Netaji Subhash Stadium in Calcutta. I missed my match and had to give a walkover, and it was stressful. So for the longest period of time, I wasn't sure where my journey was going, and I wrote an engineering exam. Um, of course, every Telugu kid, I don't think his dream, but their parents' dream was that they would become an engineer or a doctor. And in a similar sense, I also wrote that exam. Luckily for me, I failed that exam. And when I failed, my parents said, you can play a year of badminton more. And when I played that year of badminton, I went on to win the junior nationals in 91. I played a test match against Malaysia in Hyderabad. Being a local, I had an entry. And I played my first international. And more importantly, I got a job in Tata Steel. And that was actually the beginning of my career. So for me, it was uncertain times. It was never known what the future holds. And today, to bring the story back to that stage where kids are, I think we don't know what's is in store for us. If you think logically, if you use your head, and if you start analyzing the possible scenarios we can have, I think there's a lot we can predict and a lot we can go wrong with. But the bottom line would be that do we love what we do And the decision has to be from the heart, and you have to follow the heart. And the dream is important, and the goal is important, but the process is even more important. We don't know what's in store for all of us in the future, but what we know and is what we can do today. And the small steps today will eventually decide where our future will be. That's how I've played my entire life. In the year 94, when I was kind of hoping, or I was at the ranked number one player in the country. I had played as a singular entry from the country at the World Cup, and I was about to play the finals of the national games in Pune. I was playing the double semifinals when I had collided with my partner, and I broke the anterior cruciate ligament of my left knee. At that time, 25 years ago, this injury was big, and nobody before me had ever come back from an injury of that nature. Again, the same story, in the sense you don't know what the future holds good. So you push, you come back, and then you start winning again. I won the nationals in 96, and then I had another surgery in 96 on the same knee. And then again, you come back, you push, you win some, and then again in 98, I had another surgery on the same knee. So thankfully, I had parents who supported me, a doctor, Dr. Ashok Rajgopal, who really pushed me and helped me and supported me. And the journey went on. But never did I know what was coming. But I just knew what I wanted. And I kept pushing, and the bar kept going high. When I walked one step, I could see the next step possible. And when I walked the next step possible. So in the similar scenario today, I would say that all of us don't know what's happening. And if you predict, and somebody said June we can play, somebody said August we can play, today they're saying September we can play. We just don't know what's going to happen. And I think the only thing which is in our hands is to ensure that we put our best foot forward. And for all the kids, I would say just stay positive, trust your heart, and great things will happen.
Thank you, Gopi. There is a little add-on to just a thought on this. Many players who have been playing in many academies are kind of still questioning when they will reopen, what they should do at home, how they should practice, what should be their schedule. Something, some kind of solution, because a lot of young kids
I think it's most important for us that we are, whenever the sport starts back again, we are physically and mentally up there. And I'm saying this from experience because for the longest period in my life, when I was playing, and thanks to the injuries, I didn't know what the future held. So I would also not
yeah,
sure
again.
how things were in terms of the present, in terms of tomorrow morning if I get up, I didn't know whether my left knee was hurting or right knee was hurting. So I spent my entire life like that with four knee surgeries, with three metatarsals broken, with the ankle broken. So for me, I think if I get up in the morning with a body which is fine, that's great. But all I knew was if I wasn't great and if there was a body part hurting, I at least was thankful that I could work on the rest of it. And if nothing else, I could lie down and work on my mind. So I think that is the key issue. I think whenever sport starts back again, I think we should be ready. And that should mean that wherever we are today, we should go back physically and mentally stronger when we restart sport again. So that's the idea basically. So we don't know what's going to come again, and we just need to be physically and mentally up there. We need to be innovative. We don't have courts, we don't have gyms, we don't have running tracks, but I think human will and the earnestness can find us ways in which we can actually stay stronger. People have been in prisons and who have actually gone stronger. I think we are in a much better place. We could be confined, but it should be a confinement of our vision and our mind.
Thank you, Gopi. This is very nice. Now, coming to our host, Dr. Ameeta Singh, our president, DCBA. I have seen you as a player, Amita ji, since 77, and you were always known for your grit. We've seen you win many national titles as well. Now, it is indeed a pleasure for all of us to welcome you back to badminton, a game which you so fondly, played as a player and now you are coming back as an administrator. Could you please tell us what brought you back to the game and how do you see yourself as a player or as an administrator?
Well, Anoop, you started by what brought you back to the game. Let me honestly tell you, I don't think I ever left the game. Once a player, always a player. And I think, Gopi and you would agree with me that sports becomes a way of life. Sports becomes a lifestyle. I think, the game gets so much into you. You may not physically play it, but your approach to life, your attitude to life, your actions, your energies, they're always like a sportsman. So on that score, I'm not coming back. I've always been there. But on the other side, I mean, if I've got to literally answer your question as to what brings me back, I must say there was an incident that acted as a catalyst. It was very recently, a couple of months back, that some children from the Delhi state were wanting to reach the North Zone Championships. And for certain technical reasons, they were not able to send the team. Now, I had parents who reached out to me, maybe really because I was a sport. And when they reached out to me, I could see the pain in the children of not being able to participate in the North Zone Championships. I mean, as a sportsman, I think, everything else put aside, the sportsman should always be the top priority. So I did reach out to the president of the Badminton Association of India, Mr. Himanta Biswa Sharma, who intervened and saw to it that the team went and played. Let me tell you, I have done a lot of work in public life, but this was a lot of personal gratification. It just gave me a sense of gratification that children could go and play there and come back. I mean, they won laurels too, but the whole idea was that they should participate. And now the other side, that if you ask me, how does it feel to be an administrator? I think if I look at myself, I think I stand in a unique position. Having played for 18 years, being literally in the shoes of players, I think I stand in a unique position to understand the emotion of the player. So I think I would love to give back to the game, what the game has given me.
Thank you very much and really welcome back. Coming back to Gopi. Gopi, many people talk about online training. First of all, is it a word or is it practically doable? Number one. And then sports being a physical pursuit, what is the component of virtual training in that? And especially with regard to our sport, badminton.
Well, I think if there wasn't this pandemic, uh, where we had to be confined away from the badminton court, and I remember, say, 1985 till now, it's what, 36 years. I haven't probably spent a day outside of it unless I've been injured during my period when I was injured. Other than that, there's been not probably 2 days in a row ever where I've had a break from the badminton court. We've been on forced to be where we are. And for me, I think what do we do? I think when you're injured, when you are unwell, you stay home is okay. But when you're well and when you stay home, when you're perfectly all right, then what do you do? I think it's important to ensure that discipline and our basic strength and conditioning stays in place. The coaches are free, the players are free. We need a structure. We don't want players at the end of the time of this lockdown or the kind of physically being inside to come out with the wrong discipline, in the sense you don't want them to get up at 10 o'clock in the morning, you don't want food going for a toss. And as a player, we all recognize the fact that if you actually do it wrongly, you whatever you've done over the years will be lost. So I think in the present scenario, this is a great way of actually making people do and also being able to monitor what they're doing. I think online training is a revelation. It probably, without this pandemic, it probably would have taken another 5 to 10 years to come by. And even things like these, imagine a webinar like this where you're able to reach people. And otherwise, I had to fly down from here. People had to come down physically, book a hotel, make people come. I think just the spread of ideas is far better this way. And I think this is here to stay. And online is a blessing. And I'm happy that we are at least able to do this. So it's like you don't have an option. With the available options, this is something which is really a blessing.
So, are you giving online training exercises and online schedules to your players, if I may ask? Because most of the time your players are living in your academy, they are playing under your, under your physical, when you're physically present in front of them, you're watching them perform. So are you now individually giving them online instructions or online schedule of exercise, if I may ask?
As things stand, we actually have a session which starts at 6 in the morning every day. And we've continued almost after the first 1 week, which is almost like the 1st of April onwards, we've been doing this. And in the evening at 4, we have sessions. So some of the sessions are taken by me, some of the sessions by strength and conditioning coaches, and some of them by the physiotherapists. And some of the coaches also take sessions on sport, on general knowledge, on motivation and stuff. Because for me, I think one is to just keep. It doesn't matter. Sometimes, as an athlete, it doesn't matter what you do, but it's important that you do something and you look forward to something. So just having a session at 6 in the morning, people will try and eat on time, sleep on time, not play PUBG the whole day, and then get up in the morning. And then they have a training session. They are tired, they'll be resting. Then they have another session in the evening, something to look forward to. I think just to keep the discipline going and to know that people are concerned about you and they are watching you is a big help.
Signal.
So actually, I
Thank
think
you,
ask
Gopi.
a question to Gopi on this. Gopi, that means you're actually keeping them mentally strong because physical side of it is there, but they need to be mentally very strong to cross this period.
I think one of the things which I've realized, especially in my injury time, was the fact that when you, and I've seen players over the years, luckily for me, I was kind of the person who wouldn't think too much and in a sense was dumb about a few things. So I didn't look at alternate professions, I didn't look at careers outside. So my only interest was badminton. So I got deeper and deeper into it, into the sport. So when I was not playing, I would still get up, do my strengthening, set time apart for my visualization, and get do all things possible to make me mentally and physically stronger when I got back or when my knee got back. So, in the same philosophy, I use it now, wherein we would all are very disciplined. We come on to sport. We see we are, as Anup said in the beginning, we live together. We kind of train together. We are on discipline. Everything is there. The moment you go back home, and if you kind of end up getting up at 10 o'clock in the morning and got used to chatting on the phones, or you're just used to playing some other thing on the phone, or just being lazy about stuff, then when you come back into sport, it's going to make life so much more difficult. So I think it's very important to just continue the discipline part of it. And yes, I think more importantly, and you've got the point perfectly when you said that it's to ensure that they're mentally there. I think to know and to be connected with the sport and to think about the sport all the time is important.
Thank you, Gopi. Now coming to Amitaji, we have a question for you. Amitaji, as an athlete, you yourself have faced difficulties of balancing sports and academics. What actions do you think the federation or the government can take to better facilitate the player to balance the rigors of both a demanding athletic career as well as the much needed academics?
I think, Anu, Gopi just told us that he didn't manage to clear the engineering exam. Well, he gave it with the idea of wanting to clear it, but thank God, because we got Gopi as, the best player today across the world. And a coach who's making players, today, taking a generation of players ahead. So that's good. But yes, I mean, as much, as I would say that when I played, I myself was playing, I would have been loath to admit that, academics was important. I mean, when I was playing, I certainly didn't want to look at academics as important. But as much as I realize today that academics is extremely important for the complete development of every individual. To face life's journey and to face the challenges of life, complete education is a must. But the question that comes up in front of me all the time, and I have faced myself, let me tell you, I remember those times. Gopi, I don't know whether you've been through it, but I certainly remember those times when, we were in Asian game camps and Commonwealth game camps. 6 weeks, 6 to 8 months a year, I would be away from school. And I think, if any of my classmates are watching this, I would say, hey guys, thank you so much. Had you guys not been there, they only, they would help me with my lectures, they would help me by, with my notes, they even transcribe for me. So, I mean, they've done so much. So I think I reach here because of all of you, and I would thank all of them today. But it's tough. So if we are going to be putting the normal athlete, an athlete who is reaching, the highest level of the sport, to be expected to play, I think a normal routine of any athlete today would be at least 6 to 8 hours of training in the day, if not more. After that, if he is expected to face the challenges or exert or put in the same vigor with a regular student in a class, I think that would be a little out of place. The challenge would be immense. But given the circumstances, and now with so much of specialization and the way we are moving and the way we look at sport today, I think it would be very nice if we could come up with special curriculums for students, but students who have reached a certain level of the game. And that's where I often, talk about these sports universities. I think I would like to thank the Prime Minister today because I think in the month of March 2018, he has laid the foundation stone for a sports university in Imphal. So we are coming up with that, where they would have specialized curriculums for athletes. I would say all disciplines. I mean, of course, I'm talking on badminton today, but I just would apply to all disciplines, where we have tailored curriculums. Children are in those universities where they combine the education and there is a synchronized approach to that. And at the same time, if we have the educators, we have the coaches and trainers who are also in sync with each other. I think some kind of a thing like this would probably give us podium finishes. We definitely want podium finishes. We want medals. The country looks forward to it. But I think education is a bit of a challenge when it comes to the top athletes. And this could probably be managed where, they can they go. So I think this is something that I would always look up to. That sports university should come up more and more, so that we can combine this.
I agree with you there because a lot of times we have great talent and we have players coming up. Probably Gopi would also agree. But there are times players are often having their careers abruptly ending due to some injuries. Like Gopi said, he came out of a major knee injury. Now, these kind of injuries often, abruptly end sporting careers, and they need their academics to probably back them up to get to continue with their life or go ahead in life. So I think you have a great point on this new advent of sports universities coming up, and the first one, it's nice to hear that we already have one which is starting up in Imphal. I was not aware of this, and this I think makes a lot of sense. Now coming to Gopi, coming back to the COVID era, and we were talking of tough mindsets and the stress levels. Now there were players um, who were practicing for playing in the Tokyo Olympics. We had players like Lin Dan, twice Olympic gold medalist. We play then players like Bo, a great doubles player, and suddenly we started seeing these, the cancellation of the Olympics, and we started, hearing about players announcing retirements, and that too of a player of the caliber of Lin Den. Uh, what is the mind? What happened? Is it some kind of mindset in the players? Is some stress involved? What exactly do you think? Do you attribute these to? They were actually going to the Olympics to probably pick up a medal there or have a podium finish, and now we suddenly see them having announced their retirement from the game.
Well, I think the a year in sport is big. Um, when we look at, say, any other profession, if you're a doctor or if you're even a politician or a bureaucrat or a businessman, when you have a career spanning, say, 30, 40, 50 years, then a year doesn't look so big. But in sport, typically the careers are much smaller. So for a top player, it's maybe 10 years. And then if 1 year is lost, it's actually quite a bit lost. So I think we need to treat that element very differently for sport. And especially when you look and ask about these players, whether it's Lindan or Poe or some of them, I think many of us plan careers based on Olympic cycles. And whether it's coaches or players, I would also think that every 4 year cycle is one. And my decisions for life also depend on 4 year cycles. So it's kind of with the same with the players. You add to this, today is a different era. So it's a combination of things. So people would want to play the Olympics and go out on a high. Or sometimes, and I don't know if it's true, but sometimes it's also that your contracts also end with a Olympic criteria. So it's like 20 August, your contracts are ending. So your commitments to your sponsors are also ending then. And people don't see return to normal the same way, or sometimes they don't see themselves being motivated to push themselves for the next 6 months to play for another 3 months. So it's one of some of those kind of reasons could be attributed to people leaving sport during this pandemic times. But I think to just put things in perspective, I think what happens if you're the last year of a player who's sub junior? He's looking forward to play and win, and he's expecting that now I will win and you lose this year. You're under 17, you're saying this is my chance to be a national champion, and you miss out. Or you've counted your years saying that the seniors will pass out now, and this is my year to win, and suddenly you're not anymore the 19-year-old, but you move to seniors. So I think my heart goes out to all those kids who are in that phase where you miss out on that 1 year, which is your only year, and or to those kids who are say 20 years old and whom we all say are prospects, but when they come back to sport at 21 or 22, then we kind of seem to think that they're older. So sport could be cruel, and that's where my biggest concern. So I wouldn't be too worried or concerned about a Lindan or a Bo retiring. I think they had to go anyway, in the sense whether it's this year or next year. But I think my heart goes out to those kids who will be missing the sub juniors and under 13, under 15, 17, and 19, because I think they've been waiting to have this year be. So my only advice is that everything happens for a good, and I've stick to that point always in my career. And probably if this has happened, also it's for a good, and we just don't know. Just hang on, stay positive, and then light will come. Is what I would think.
Anup, I think I would like to butt in on this because it's a very nice thing that Gopi has just put in, and I was going to give that to you anyways because having said this to the children, Gopi, I remember I was training for the nationals, which was in 1975, if I'm not mistaken, at Anand. Am I right, Anup? Was it Anand Nationals, Vallabh Vidyanagar? Which year
Yes,
was it?
75 was Anand. That's right.
Right. And I remember I was about all of 13 and I was trying to get to go as a junior for the nationals in Anand. And I didn't make it to the team. And when I didn't make it to the team, I was devastated. I was broken. I was distraught. I felt I would never be able to play again. But of course, I got myself together. When I saw the Maharashtra team leaving for Anand, I was very sad. But then I got myself together again, and I was very fortunate. I want to just add to what Gopi just said to the
Yeah,
children that I was very, very lucky because that same year they separated the junior nationals from the senior nationals and they introduced the sub junior nationals. And the same year, I became sub junior national champion in Calcutta. So actually,
that's right.
I do believe you stay positive, you continue, and you never know what might be a brighter side to tomorrow, having, seen this little period of COVID. I support or I'm completely with you on this, Gopi, and I think every child who's hearing us should know that there is a bright tomorrow and they're going to make it. They're definitely going to make it.
I
Just
think
to
I have one
continue with
instance
the,
where
please,
Yeah, Gopi.
yes,
I
Gopi,
have
please.
one instance where we had the Bimantara World Championships. That was the first time when the Junior World Championships was held.
Mhm.
So every year, the World Championships was held on a date which is 8th to 15th. And every year the date was 17th to 23rd of November. And the year I was playing, for some strange reason, they preponed it by a week. And what it meant was I was born on the 16th of November. So I missed out on playing my only junior world championships, being a national champion. So I couldn't play. So it really hurt for a very long time. But today, when I look back, okay, it doesn't matter in the big scheme of things. But then as a kid, you really are um, seeing that and you look forward to it. And then when you miss it, it's very painful.
True.
It is so nice to go back into time, and I remember Ameeta ji, you winning in Calcutta, and then I saw you win a triple crown in Guwahati also, and then I think you continued that in Hyderabad thereafter, and so it's very nice to go back into time, and very soothing. It feels very nice. Uh, Gopi, just trying to connect the past with the future. You have produced some of the finest players in the world, some great players in the last decade, many of whom have achieved world number one ranking. Saina was world number one in 2015. Srikanth was world number one in 2017. Sindhu won the world championship 2018. Now, the way you have made players after players coming up in the last 10 to 15 years is great to see that. But the question is, while the current lot of players is keeping the tricolor flying and making us proud, what are the preparations for the next incoming generations, for future, I would say, those who would be probably the future podium finishers, say 5 years later or beyond? Who are the players, and how have you planned that, and what's coming for us?
Um, well, although Anup is asking me for answers and solutions for everything, so I don't think I have all the answers and the solutions. But
Gopi,
I,
I
I
don't
will just
think only
share.
Anup is asking. The country is asking you today. Every sports person wants this answer.
Yep. I think to
Absolutely.
put this into perspective, Anup, for us, for me, for an entire generation, I think what Prakash sir did in 1980 to win the All England was huge. For us, I don't think we as Indians would have thought it's possible for anybody to win an All England had he not won that. So that's something which, but somehow, almost by 90, we never could relate to it because the standard had come down quite drastically in the last few years. Because the last of those lot of players were done by 83, 84, 85. We just could see um, international performances coming down. So when I played my first international event, we, the entire Indian team, was, and we played the 92 Barcelona Olympics, but I think nowhere were we even close of even thinking of a medal. We were happy to just be there. And for all of us growing up, that is what it was. Since to go abroad was a big thing. And to win abroad, nobody even dreamt or thought about. Somehow, over the years, thanks to my coaches, whether it was Ameeta Sinh sir, Arif sir, Prakash sir, or Ganguly Prasad, or my two foreign coaches, Shaw Min and Wang Suyan, uh, I kind of, with them and also with a lot of trial and error, I kind of managed to win the All England back in 2001. And at the end of my career, I could actually, with a lot of trial and error, figure out that this is the formula which I had, which was important to win from a mindset perspective, from a game perspective, because we all were the classic stroke players and we would be those perfect toss stroke players. And we were all influenced by an era of Prakash sir and Suresh Goyal and that kind of defensive work of Dinesh Khanna. Oh, that's how Syed Modi. All of these great players were the ones who were defining Indian badminton. And then I was typically against that in the sense I was out of another one. I was rash, I would jump, dive, play, had knee surgeries, and I was like kind of different. So I believe somehow that I knew the formula which was needed to win. And I'd figured that out from a diet, from a mindset, from the technical, tactical areas of the sport. But in 2002, I had my fourth knee surgery on my right knee this time, which was basically an overuse injury and multiple, about 4 foot injuries, which actually took a lot out of me. So I had this great formula which I believed would work, but I didn't have a body to work with it. So that's how in 2003, after the surgery, I took up coaching. Almost I jumped into coaching because I somehow felt that I was doing injustice by playing when I could be doing better by coaching. And in 2004, I won a tournament in the Asian Satellite, which was the last straw uh, in that because I, as a player, was playing, and I, as a coach, was also coaching. And I won the tournament. The player in me wanted to win. The coach in me wanted my opponent to win. And the emotional turmoil which went down in my mind was too much to handle. So on that night, I decided I will never compete again. And that's how I left the sport. But that formula of that day remained, and I kept wanting to use it. I picked the group of kids who were in Hyderabad at that point of time. Uh, Many believed that I was good, but how good was I as a coach was a question mark because they said great players cannot be great coaches. So that was a challenge. And over the next few years, that formula which I had was the single biggest driving point. Out of that group of 25 players whom I started coaching with in 2004, the oldest of them was Kashyap at 16, and the group had Sai Praneeth, Guru Saidat, Saina, Sindhu, and the youngest of them was Sindhu. So it's kind of out of that, whether it's Sikhi or Tarun or Sumit, almost about 10 of them have played top 20 in the world. So, so I think that was one era where I was very lucky to actually have the support of somebody like VK Verma to start off with. I had the support of Akhilesh Ji to start off with, and the everything came up when nobody believed the Indian badminton story. Nobody believed that we would come up, and especially nobody believed that Indian women would come up because the general mindset was that our girls are not strong enough and we can't hit hard enough, or they can't in a big All England Wembley Stadium. We are not powerful enough to hit to the back of the court. That's the kind of mindset we were working with. To actually move that across and produce results over time has been fantastic. And what has it done? The sport, when we used to play, and we would remember LB Stadium had 3 badminton courts in Hyderabad, and the clubs had 1 court, and railways had about another 3 courts. So we were looking at under 10 courts in the whole of Hyderabad. Today we are looking at 1,000 in that number. So we have actually grown phenomenally as a sport. Today, parents bring kids, and I've had parents who moved from abroad to have their kids play. People who've come from Punjab to Mizoram to Trivandrum to come over to Hyderabad and pick up and play the sport with one of the parents actually staying back and pushing. We've got academies across cities, whether it's Kerala or Maharashtra or Karnataka or Chennai or Haryana or Assam. We've got academies and players coming up. So what has happened in the last few years was one side of the story, and what should happen for the next is another side of the story. We need now to collaborate more because when we look at it, we were working in isolation, and that was needed because we needed to focus on a small bunch of players. But as Gopichand, I need to also open up because the knowledge and the research or the thinking has to grow out to the open. And we need to share more, we need to collaborate more, we need to bring more people into the system. And what got us results in the last 15 years, what got us here need not get us to the next level. We need to think differently. The government today is very different. We have Kelo India, we have the top scheme, we have a Fit India movement, We have sport for all. It's like the government is thinking sport. The economy is very different today. The parents are different because at my time, you would still were thinking about only an option of academics. But today, parents are ready to have their kids play sport as a career. So you're looking at people who are different. You're looking at bureaucrats and sponsors differently. More corporates are looking at it. More people are ready to open academies for financial reasons. More people are ready to get into coaching, which is
But
unheard of, right? So that is what we are doing. So we have a different thinking. We have a more mature thinking, and now we need to collaborate more because now it's time to challenge the rest of the world because we have the numbers. And I think that's something which is very, very important.
thank you, Gopi, because for all of us, the future of this sport is, kind of, we are looking forward. We all know that badminton has now come up to almost the second most popular sport in the country. And there is often a question asked, especially when we are sitting in badminton circles, uh, is what needs to be done to increase the popularity of the game? What needs to be done that more number of people take to the game? Uh, because why I ask this question is because there is a certain cost element at times which we hear of. I'll tell you by an example. A girl who plays for state of UP and lives in Agra. During this COVID time, the family has gone into such difficult times that today I read on the WhatsApp that this girl had to sell off her badminton rackets to uh, to uh, to be able to, the family felt that they needed money so that they can run the home. So that is where people have these kind of things are happening. I read this today, but I'm not sure if you got this news as yet. And the thing is, what steps have to be taken to a make badminton more popular, more affordable? I don't know, but whenever we talk of sport in India, people often stop at cricket and they don't look beyond. So something, some light you can throw on this. And
I think as a sport, I think if you look at the way we have grown, I think there's so much to be proud of as a sport. I think no other sport can actually be happy about what they have achieved in terms of growth in the last few years. Having said that, I think we need to streamline and ensure that there is a system in place. So, in general, across sport, and this is a challenge which sport has, I think across sport. So, you go into a sport class and you're asking, if you're a cricketer, you're asking, will I be a Kohli or a Tendulkar? Or if you're a footballer, you're asking whether you're a Messi or a Ronaldo. So you go into a badminton class, and if you're a girl, you're asking Saina Sindhu, or you want to be a Shrikant. So what are you asking? You don't go to a maths and a physics class and say, I want to be a Shakuntala Devi or a Einstein, or you want to become a Ramanujan. You learn physics and maths just for the subjects, right? So why, when you pick sport, you pick with the idea that I want to be the best in the world? There's no harm. But I think the primary idea of playing sport, and I'm sure all of us have done this, is that we love the sport and then we move one step, then we see the next. And at the end of it, we can connect the dots and tell a story. But at the beginning, it's only about you loving the sport and wanting to get up early and get to the stadium. And that should not be missed in the whole bargain of wanting to become champions. Sport in general should be a lot more inclusive than what it has been in the past. We need to have parents who would look at sport and play sport and believe that even if I don't win medals, Just by playing sport, I benefit on health, I benefit on human development, I benefit through life lessons, and there are 10 things which I benefit out of sport, and one of it is medals. So if you win medals, that's fantastic. You can be that person who continues playing sport for a career. But if you don't also, you've not lost in sport. So that is one idea why we take sport would be very, very important. Then the second thing is that today and even say 5 years back, we wouldn't have this kind of a system. We've had today we have the BWF, and the sport has grown worldwide as well, right? So you have say 50 odd tournaments in the world level of a decent level. You have domestic tournaments, junior circuits. So you've got circuits and circuits happening, world rankings deciding where you go. And in India also, there's so many more tournaments which are happening, and people investing in the sport. So you don't want people to work at cross purposes. So you want the entire system to be aligned so that your best talent gets and groomed to take on to be the best in the world. I think that if there was one singular thing which is important, it's a big country with varied interests, with different ideas. I think how to get all of them aligned together would be the single most biggest challenge we have.
Thank you. Just to add to that, now we are coming up with the all-weather shuttlecocks, which will probably bring in a lot of outdoor badminton as well. Do you think that is going to add to the popularity of the sport by sheer numbers, the number of people playing?
I think as a sport, we are poised very well. And I think we almost every academy which I have seen has been full of people. I think we are looking at very good times for the sport. As a sport, um, it's it's weatherproof. You're playing indoors, so basically your timings are a lot more in control. You can play with lesser number of people. You are not exposed to the heat and the tan and the dust. So you kind of are protected in an Indian society, which is important. It's secure. Not many people are going to watch or bystanders on the road and not going to pass someone. So there is a certain amount of comfort playing badminton and the sport itself. And I've played different sport, and I could be, people could say I'm biased, but this is the best sport. So I think I can stick to that word. So
Absolutely,
I think
absolutely.
I'm with
when
you
you
on that.
play the sport, you realize when you play the sport, you realize there's nothing better. So I think the sport innately has a lot of quality. And yes, the cost of shuttles could be inhibitive. I think at some point of time in the next 2, 3, 4 years, I do believe that we will have synthetic shuttles which will come through with a lot more durability, and the cost of shuttles will go down, thereby adding to the popularity of the sport. Till that time, I think there's no simple solution, but I think we as a sport, I'm sure are poised very well. So the only challenge for me is sometimes the people who can play can't pay, and how do you fix that gap?
Thank you very much. Thanks, Gopi. Amita ji, uh, now coming to badminton in the capital, we are all aware that Delhi has some of the finest infrastructure for badminton in the world. The stadia, the badminton courts are excellent here, great facilities. The youngsters of Delhi get to see a world tour event, the India Open, every year, which
Anoop is losing a connection. Yeah,
Yeah, even I can't hear Anup.
yeah. Anoop, are you there?
sorry, I lost you for a moment. So, keeping the fact that we have some of the finest infrastructure in the capital, We also have world tour events like the India Open, which the young players get to see. And we also have quite a few academies in Delhi. Now, with such infrastructure, with such viewing exposure available, with such academies, what steps do you think you can take as president of DCBA, which will probably or which can make Delhi players deliver at the national or international level?
That's a good question to me. And Anup, we can not forget that Delhi holds the pride of hosting the Asian Games 1982. And I played the Asian Games 1982, so I know about how much had been put into building the stadiums and the infrastructure at that time. Then we also cannot forget that we successfully held the 2010 Commonwealth Games. So Delhi definitely has probably very, very good infrastructure when it comes to stadia, as far as I would say for all athletes and even for badminton. Now you asked me what is going to be my roadmap. Basically, what Gopi just said, that there would be many who can play but cannot pay, which means the talent is there. And I think we all three being players do realize that badminton is an expensive game. It is not one of those games which would not put a burden on the family structure. So definitely, this talent needs to be given that support and facility. Now, when I look at what Gopi was talking about, my thoughts looking at Delhi, I must compliment all our internationals, all the players who are here, whether it is Madhumita, whether it is Ajay Kavar, whether it is Manjusha, whether it is Vikram, whether it is Dinesh Khannaji, we have all our stalwarts who are still attached, who are running academies, popularizing the game and taking it forward. But if I read right from the little time that I have gotten involved, which is just a couple of months, and then we had this pandemic, unfortunately. But if I can read right, I feel that it's the time for micromanagement and micro specialization. From how Gopi has been putting it. I mean, I remember the time when we played. We never had physiotherapists traveling with us. We never had masseurs traveling with us. We had no, I think, nutritionists and dietitians. Everything is so very minutely observed now, and there are facilities for all this. We did not go through that era. So badminton has definitely, gone into a different era altogether. So considering that, when I look at Delhi, I feel that after Madhumita, we have not been able to give a world beater. We haven't been able to give an international to that level. And why so, despite having so much of infrastructure and everything? So I feel that there is a little more coordination needed, a little more sync required. There has to be a lead where you bring things together. As I said, we have internationals here who are running academies, and I think there are 300 plus or maybe even more academies in Delhi as well. But why are we not able to get the result? I don't know. I may be right or wrong. Gopi could even correct me on this. I would appreciate it. That I feel that, specialization, when I say, I think that, we need to identify the child now. I mean, I'm speaking like an administrator, yes, that, we need to identify the children at the school level. And when we identify them at the school level, we should have some academies which, run at the school level. Then, we could have academies which allow them to graduate to the under 15 and maybe, then graduate to the under 18 and then onward. So, in the process of this graduation that I talk about, I think as the state federation or, at the center, I think we should have one academy where, the best in the state could reach easily. People who are not able to put in that kind of money, but the talent is there. I think we need to have all the high, I would say, high tech facilities over there, whether it is coaches, whether it is doctors, whether it is all of it. We should really have the infrastructure for these children, and also have that as residential. But when I say residential, it should also, connect with schools where, they have that coordination for their academics as well. And here, yes, definitely, I would look to the government for help, and I would also, as I see corporates coming forward and doing a lot, I would look and appeal for their CSR contributions. So maybe if we have this kind of a chain which goes, where there is a graduating process, where children have done better and better, and they go on into other. So we don't break the chain. We identify, and in fact, I also see that by and by, if you see these children growing, maybe as Gopi just said that there came a time when he realized that he wants to go to coaching. I think you could even identify children who could go to coaching and not probably waste their time, in becoming just trying to become medalists, because they're probably meant more to become better coaches. So this kind of monitoring and this kind of an arrangement could be made. I think as leading DGDA today, I would certainly like to take this kind of a view, along with the players, because I do believe that nothing can be done individually. We have to work together. There has to be sync and coordination. We have to look at the larger picture. We need the support of the government. We need the CSR. And most of all, we need the ex players. So that's why, I call DCBA for the players, of the players, and by the players. That is the reason why I feel that, nothing can get better. Where I said I have that unique position where, I was one time in those shoes. So I understand what the pains and challenges are, the trials and tribulations are, the emotions involved in one victory and the emotions involved in one defeat. It can make and break a person. So there's so much that goes into sport, and I completely agree that Gopi puts it. But it is a short-lived career. It's a very short-lived career. So all of this together, I think it calls for a lot of input, for administrators across the country to be caring for every little child over there. So I look at my roadmap this way, that and I take this opportunity to ask Gopi to also guide us for Delhi, because Delhi does need to move on. I would definitely reach him and ask for guidance, because anything that can be put in at the end of the day, medal means it's for the nation. I mean, we're proud of what Gopi has done today. Hindu, Saina, oh, it really, makes you feel good. And then it reminds me of my time where we did play. And, as he said, that, we were not able to bring in medals. So it's such a joy to take to, see these medals coming in. But I think the coordination is required, and we need to share, because any knowledge, if not shared, is not worth the knowledge. So I think if we start sharing our knowledge, we start coordinating better, we start exchanging programs, we start this kind of, story going. I'm sure we'll be able to do much better. This is how I look at starting with BCB.
Thank you, Ameeta ji. We really look forward for the capital to spring up some players in the coming years, and I wish you all the best on that as well. Now, coming back to Gopi, Gopi, as we all discussed during this program, your performances, especially winning the All England, which is like the Wimbledon, as good as Wimbledon in tennis, is the premier tournament of the world even today. And of course, thereafter producing so many players for India. I think you have done so much, and your career has seen so many aspects, both during your play time as well as your the time when you were coaching. Now, what would you like to share with us as a highlight of your career, uh, uh, as a player or as a coach, or highlights during your play time, and also another highlight during your coaching time? What are the highlights you would like to bring forward to our participants?
Anupa, honestly, I don't know if it really makes sense, but I'll still try to articulate what I feel. For me, the entire journey has never been that I could pinpoint a moment and say, this has been my happiest moment. Because for me, when I won the All England also, and today when I look back, the impetus, the kind of push it gave in my career, my standing to be a good coach or to be respected in the world of sport comes from the All England. From that perspective, I would put All England as the most momentous moment in my playing career. It couldn't have been otherwise. But the school tournament which I won when I was 14 stands out in terms of pure happiness of what when I won and maybe the next day or so. Because when we won, my teachers were there, my school was there, and the next day they declared a holiday to my school. So my entire school was happy because of my performance. So that gives me immense happiness. My Commonwealth medal, where we as a team, India won the silver in 1998, or our qualification to the Thomas Uber Cup finals in 99. These team events give you the maximum amount of happiness. But I can't take out the All England because today when people talk about me, it's the All England, so I have to. But honestly, the next few minutes after I finished the match, it was more like good, thank God. I was going through a lot of pain in my body for the match or during the tournament. So I was just happy that the pain was over. So it was more that way. And when I look back at each of those moments as a coach, 2008, Saina's performance in Beijing, 2010, when the medal of Saina made us overtake England to be the number two country, or we passed 100 in the medal tally in Commonwealth Games, or the medal when not many sport had won medals in Rio, or in China when Saina and Srikanth won the China Open. I think these are definitely great moments which I'm happy about. But I know strangely, even the day when Sindhu won her Rio Games, that night I still remember I was going through the notes of players at the academy who I've not been able to focus on the previous few months and what I need to do with them when I get back. So it's always been an ongoing journey, and truly, someday when I hang up, I probably will be very satisfied and happy about it. But at the moment, the day after the All England, also I was training in the morning, uh, wanting to do better in the journey. And as a coach, also, it's the same story. So there's not been a pause to say that I've paused and celebrated and supremely happy about it. But I think it's been a greatly satisfying journey. And I, it's been fantastic. I think it just keeps pushing you uh, more the responsibility than the pleasure.
Thank you, Gopi. Um, Amita ji, before we proceed to the questions from our participants, although you have also shared some highlights from your the beginning of your career, but we would like you to share some beautiful memories of your playtime as well with the participants.
Well, I could just say one thing, that, I am what I am today, and I actually, I think it's that made me this way. So primarily, I think sports gives you a lot. It just, becomes part of your personality. It confidence. It also keeps you positive. It makes you very youthful. So I think my energies today are also, because of sports. So I owe a lot to the game. When you ask me memories, yeah, very honestly, I can't really tell you one either. I mean, it'll be very difficult to, pinpoint that this is, yes, winning nationals for me would have been important, or, winning the first state title would have been important. I think more or less Gopi would be understanding that I have, more or less this to say that these victories were great. There were moments where, I was not in a team or I lost a particular match, very broken. But I think a great moment in perspective of all of us together, which we really celebrated, was when Prakash won the All England, and I was part of that team. I mean, I remember that it was a very very big victory for India, and reaching there and Prakash winning the All England in the 80s was like it was a very big thing. I mean, I remember that joy being shared by the Indian team. It was something else. I mean, I remember that bottle of Gopi's gone off. I mean,
Gopi's gone off. Yeah.
so
He's
no,
back.
no.
He's back
So
with us.
that moment was a unique moment, something to. I mean, we'll all cherish all our lives. That's a great memory. But at the other side, I would like to bring in some lighter moments also. I mean, if by chance I have Ami and all with us now, let me tell you that, we spent the times together in camps, which were really long time. We would be in camps for, 3 months, 4 months, sometimes even longer, with short breaks to go home. And we'll never forget the time we spent at the NIS Patiala. Now, the interesting part over there was that the old palace side was for the girls and the newer dormitories were for the boys. So we were all like sometimes 10 girls, sometimes even 14 girls in one room. I think those were the best moments we spent together. I remember time, when it was Ami and Kamal and Madhumita, Radhika Bose, and we had Maureen there, and we had Damayanti ji as our coach, and of course, TPS Puri. I can never forget getting up in the morning and reaching there at 5:30 for our training, and then how we would be back, each of us, lining up to go for our showers, and we would be all washing it together. We would be stealing, we would be, helping each other out. But the one beautiful thing that I must say that we may have been adversaries on the court. We did fight tough matches against each other. But the same night, we would be back to our rooms and as friendly as ever. That was a very beautiful sight to that time that I found that we all fought tooth and nail on the court, but we would return back to sharing a room, and actually lying down next to each other and forgetting about the game. I feel the game has changed a bit. There is more professionalism or a little more distance I see in players today, but maybe that's because of the aggression that has come in. Or but those moments spent together in camps were, I think, for me the most cherishing moments. And there are fond memories when we would even go for a break for a swim to the pool, or we would be given an opportunity to move away for an evening from badminton, or we would go for a Sunday movie. But all of this, I mean, just brings a lot of joy, and there was a lot of bonding and bonhomie. So these are cherished moments, great moments that badminton has given me. And I do hope that, I could see that happening again, even if I come back to be able to, give a little bit through administration. I look forward to those happy moments again.
Thank you. We really enjoyed, listening to your going back into the memory lane and coming back with. I remember at Patiala, you used to have the Maharani rooms with a lot of mango trees around, and of course the men were staying in the Dhyan Chand hostel
And,
those days.
and we would always be
Well,
scared that if we are hearing,
Uh,
there are some ghost passing by, and we had all those moments spent together. Because
okay.
we were in the palace and we would say we are hearing, ghungroos, and there were all kinds of stories that were there. But they were great moments of joy, let me tell you.
Now we are taking on some questions from the participants. Can we just take the questions now? Just a couple of questions are there. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Can we have the first question, please, on the? Well, this is a question from Mr. Biswajit Ghosh. It's on the screen. Biswajit Ghosh says, Gopi sir, being the chief national coach, I'd like you to throw some light on the performance of players from the northeastern states of the country. We've seen lots of players excelling in age group level, but they fizzle out when they reach the seniors. What is your opinion on this? That's the first one. And secondly, what is the plan, if any, for development of badminton in the region, considering the abundance of talent here? That's for Gopi. Gopi,
I think
were you able to hear the question? Are we audible to you?
it doesn't seem to be connected.
Is Gopi online?
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
నానా నాకు ఫోన్ పంపివా తొందరగా తొందరగా
should know.
Gopi, can you hear us? Gopi, the question is, there's a question for you on the screen. Hello, Gopi. I think we've lost Gopi for a while. We have lost Gopi. In the meanwhile, we have another question for you, Ameeta ji. Probably we'll get Gopi back when he gets connected again. We'll just have the question on the screen. This question is for you. Our team is just technical team is just playing the question, bringing it on the screen. Probably in a moment. Yes. Now this is Ameeta ji, this is a big concern, how we can make badminton affordable to players. There are a couple of families whose dreams of making their child a badminton player goes in vain due to cost.
I think, I kind of referred to that when I was speaking also.
Yes.
And if this question comes from Shubham Sharma, am I right? And I think it's a
Yes.
very relevant question because, we must realize that there is abundant talent in this nation. Abundant talent. And the talent is not necessarily only in the urban areas or in, the bigger cities. You have talent way back in the villages also. But there is definitely the problem of infrastructure, of coaches, of availability of, high tech training. So when we talk of affordability, as I just mentioned when I was speaking, that the only way out is that when we spot this talent, we, as will have to come forward as the government or as administrators, as federations, to actually identify this talent and from there, be able to put this identified talent into the hands of the coaches, correct trainers, and give them all the facilities. And that's why I was talking about the sync and I was talking about the graduation. That, these children graduate and they come through the process of selection. And the top players, should be given these facilities, which could probably be even something that they don't need to pay for because they have reached that level where the government should take them. So I think this is the only route that, I could find for players to be reaching out.
Thank you. We are coming back to Gopi. Gopi, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. There's a question for you from one Mr. Biswajit, which is just coming on screen. This is a question. Can we please? The technical team is just bringing the question on the screen. Just take a second, probably. Can we have a question for for Mr. Gopichand on the screen, please. This Well, while the question comes in, Gopi, there's a question from one Mr. Biswajit Ghosh, who says that there is abundant talent of badminton players, badminton players in the Northeast. And the question is that, while they are playing very well at the junior level, when they are graduating to the senior level, it is often seen that many of these players tend to fizzle out. Is there any development plan for these children uh, of the Northeast who are quite otherwise physically fit, so that they can come up in the sport? This was primarily the question from one Mr. Biswajit Ghosh. So is there any development plan as you as chief coach can tell us about for the Northeast?
Yeah, I think it's a very important aspect, because
You lost his voice. Uh,
can you hear me?
Yeah.
yes, now I can hear you.
Can you? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, as a sport, I think we need to realize that the players from the Northeast come with abundance of strength in the legs, which is almost natural to them. And the players from the hills come with a lot of endurance, which is natural to them. Both of these aspects are very, very important in badminton. Also, the fact is about maturity. Sometimes two 11-year-old kids could almost be 4 to 5 years apart in developmental age. So somebody could have be 11 years, two kids could be 11 years, but one could be 15 in development and one could be 9 in development. So what it basically means is that you cannot judge players by junior performances alone. And you have to look at it. A junior performance, just pure strength can get you through. But at a higher level, it is important that you need all aspects of the game looked into. With, I know for a fact that states like Manipur and Assam are doing extremely well. And with people like Hemanta Biswa Sharma heading, and also the sports minister Kiran Rijiju being from the Northeast, they also realize the potential of the Northeast. And as Amita ji has mentioned about the Manipur University of Sport, and Manipur also has the highest number of medals, one of the highest number of medals at the national games, Kalo India Games. So kind of, it is a kind of a state which has a lot of sporting talent. From our side, with the Tata Group and the Mizoram state, we are actually building a high performance center in Mizoram. And
Okay.
with Manipur, Mizoram, Assam taking care of. One of the challenges which is that when these kids come outside to different states, somehow they lose from the cultural and emotional support, and that sometimes backtracks them in the highest stage. So I think it's important to provide them in their own environment, a training environment which is world class. And that's what we are trying. And hopefully in the years to come, you will see great talent flourish all the way to the highest level.
Thank you, Gopi. Now we, we have one more question, but do we have the time? Okay. So we have one more question. Ameeta ji, there's a question coming up for you on the screen, which is, ma'am, I am reading in Delhi Government School in class 11. Now this is from a girl called Chetna Shukla. We are all facing many facility lacks in gaming sections. Probably this is what she's talking about her school, especially games like badminton. It's a humble request to pay attention towards it. This is from Gargi Shukla, Delhi. Uh,
I can just say one thing to Gargi Shukla, that I am available. I am in Delhi. And if she's personally facing any kind of problem, she can just reach out to me. I will certainly try and look into it if she needs any help. Because this seems to be like, an issue she's facing herself. So I am absolutely there. She can just reach out to me, and I would definitely look into what I could help her.
Thank you very much, Amita ji. There's another question quickly coming up on the screen. Um, there's one gentleman, Nitin Singh, who says, "How do we promote badminton in rural areas where good infrastructure and coaching academies are not there? How to promote these young talents to perform at the bigger or the higher levels?" Gopi, can you take this question, please?
Well, I think let's focus on where we have the infrastructure. It's not necessary that we move to the nooks and corners of the country. Although it's a great thought and an ideal scenario, but let's realize the fact that to train an Olympic athlete every year, it costs roughly 10,000 US dollars as per the IOC survey. So basically, if you want to make the entire country play the Olympic sport at the highest level, it's not going to be possible. It's economically not feasible. So I think it's important that at least where we have infrastructure, we have parents who have the inclination, kids who have the talent and the inclination and the commitment to continue doing this as part of their training. If you're able to provide them an atmosphere and an environment and a structure which makes them reach the highest level, I think we would have achieved that. And I truly, totally agree that we need infra at the smallest places, but that's not something I think we have at the moment. So wherever we have, and the government has plans to get to district and mandal levels, and hopefully we will get to the rural villages in some time. But at the moment, I think we have enough and more courts, enough and more people to produce world-class results, and enough and more talent. We just need to take care of what we have in the first place, is what I would think.
Thank you, Gopi. One last question coming up. Uh, this is on the screen now. Can we please have the question on the screen here? From Manoj Kumar Sabat. As as a chief coach, it is a question to Mr. Gopichand. Any plan for coaches panel in different levels of the game in different places of India? That's some restructuring of the panel. I don't know who's this gentleman, and okay, this is probably a coach from Odisha, is
Manoj
what
is a
I.
coach from Orissa.
That's right.
Yeah, Manoj is a coach from Orissa, so I know of him. Um,
Okay.
well, I think I think there's a lot of things which are being planned by the Badminton Association of India with Hemanta Biswa Sharma and Mr. Ajay Singhania as secretary. I think we have put in our plans, and hopefully with the SAI and the BI coming together, we will have a coaching structure, a tournament structure, a developmental plan in place in the next few years. It's something which is of primary importance, and to ensure that we have coaches in each segment. And just to take a minute, I think like we have in schools, we have primary schools, we have high schools, and we have, say, colleges and PhD colleges. But in the sport, we don't have such structure. So it's important to realize that we need grassroots coaches, we need intermediate coaches and elite coaches working together, and each coach transferring to the next level. And having said that, I think grassroots level coaches are the primary building foundations for players in the country. And we need to focus on ensuring that grassroots level coaches and coaches are motivated and paid so that more and more people can produce players to the next level.
Thank you, Gopi. And now, with the permission of our host and our chief guest today, I want to thank everyone who has joined this webinar today. all the players, all the coaches, the lovers of the game from India and across the world. We had a lot of international people also hooking on to this program today. This has been a wonderful interaction and a unique opportunity to understand the intricacies and requirements of the game, as well as see what the future of sport will be from our nation's chief coach. Gopi, thank you very much. You have really given so many points and so many solutions, especially at the time of this pandemic, when uncertainty has made players feel at sea. And further finding solutions to problems and challenges faced by the players is the first and foremost step we feel in the right direction, assisting our players in achieving glory. Ameeta ji, you're taking this initiative is really, we feel very grateful to you, and we urge you to conduct more webinars of such webinars in the future, so that sharing of knowledge, ideas, and experiences shall enrich us all. Thank you very much, Amita ji. Thank you very much, Gopi, and thank you very much for all the participants who joined us today. So we'll be signing off now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gopi. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anu. Thank you, Amita ji. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Amit.
Amita. Thank you.
Thank you, Anu.
Thank you. Welcome. Very